Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Gentlemen, Auston Holleman posted a video in which a man with a screen name "It's That Bad" called into Melanie King's show and surprised her with the question about her absence from Kevin Samuel's funeral. He did surprise her. I don't think he had to ask the question, but I didn't know that she wasn't at the funeral. And since I found out that she wasn't, you know what? That's a legitimate question to ask. He didn't have to, but it is legitimate. Oh, that's not all. Let's look at how she replied, because she didn't answer. She didn't say why. She came up with, "It's not your business." He duped Melanie into dropping the mask, her mother cuss word self. Let's look at what she did wrong. Now, there are guys that disagree with "It's That Bad," and I'm not going to give his real name, but there are guys who disagree with that. I disagree with him asking the question out of surprise per se. But then again, if you want to know, at some point you're going to have to ask, and asking in writing would not have been as polite as him asking with his face and his voice, because he was not impolite. However, she's the one that broke character. She's the one that got aggressive. She's the one that often even became unfair. She muted him. You can see in the video where he speaks, but you can't hear him. She muted him. So that, in other words, what she was doing is she was saying, "I get to talk down to you because you made me mad, but you don't get to say nothing in your defense." That's where, and I hate to say it like this, but that's where not who I believe or who I believed her to be came out, but that's where who black women in America believe they are came out of her, the black bitch. I don't think of sisters like that, except to the extent to which they think of themselves this way. But we know that's how they think of themselves. They think of themselves this way more than we do. And she showed that. What did she say? She went into sign language, went into "it ain't your business," and then she immediately proceeded to attack him based on something that not only is very unlikely to be true statistically speaking, but also ain't none of her mother cuss word business. She started saying something about him being 1 inch, and she called him Angry Inch. "You just mad because I'm never going to sit on it." See, that's not even an adult thing to say. He never said anything about screwing her. She had to go straight to, "I'll never give you none, and that's why you mad." That's why they act the way they act. And that's why they go through even surgical procedures to look the way she looks. Oh, yeah. Now I get it. That's why she told this man, "Even I don't bring peace." She didn't bring peace when she didn't really like the way she looked and she was married. But she was married to a man from another country. How dare she try to question Auston Holleman about his refusal to deal with women from the United States? She's advocating for men. Thank you, Miss King. We appreciate that. But as I've told you, and as others have said, you're too damn late to save the relationship for this generation. Those who are pubescent and post-pubescent right now, it's too late. Miss King, what you're saying is exactly what little girls today need to know. Little boys and little girls need to know, because they're the generation that's going to stay here for several more years until they're grown enough and can afford to leave. And also, they're the ones who can decide, "I'm not going to do things the same way." Because each generation decides to bring in something new and to chuck off something old. That's how societies change. So, Miss King, your message is best aimed at them. It was best aimed at them, I should say, until you let somebody provoke you into dropping your mask. Miss King, I'm talking directly to you. You may not know that you are a chameleon, but you're a chameleon. Now, if you know that you are one, you're a fraud, and every man that sent you anything should be ashamed of himself, and we should isolate these men. We men should isolate the ones that sent you any sizable sum of money, because see, I've barely made anything off of this. I've made some for the family because some of them have hit the Cash App up, I think it's been about not a full 100 since I first started to post that. That goes to a family account. Not a full 100 then. Actually, not 90 altogether. Not yet. 15 has gone to my Bitcoin. I don't show my face for a reason. I can't afford to. I'm between jobs now. I just found out that I'm not even going to be transferred within the company to another position. Just found this out yesterday afternoon. I got to sit up and decide how I'm going to financially make it with my craft. I got to come up with something on my own. This channel's not going to make it. And that's why I look at these men and I say, if you just going to send something out, at least do something like this for Green Gorilla, Ronald Neal, or Mr. Holleman, in which, unfortunately, men did come through for Mr. Holleman. If you're going to make these ladies rich, great, make him rich too. These gentlemen made Mr. Samuels rich. Thank you, brothers. You got in on this. And let's be honest, if you're advocating for men, but you still want to tell today's men to not be critical thinkers, when it means that you got a tough question to answer and you're going to resort to sign language, the usual hyena bitch language, and insult the size of a man's junk, and you don't have a damn clue what he looks like below the belt. You don't even know what he looks like below the chest plate, because he didn't show that on camera. Because he asked a question that you probably could have had a good answer for, and you just chose not to give it. Okay, it's none of his business. His junk is none of yours. Okay, so you wouldn't sleep with him. Well, see, that's the other thing. See, now you're dealing with a generation of men that can't be insulted by that, because we now know, statistically speaking, what we knew intuitively before. Most women wouldn't sleep with most men. What'd that mean? You just mad because I would never F you. Most women would never sleep with most men. So that's not even an insult anymore. You could value a man for a particular skill and you wouldn't sleep with him because you're spoiled for choice. You got too many options. We've made it too easy. Of course you're not going to. But see, now, because we know that you're not grown fully, I mean above the neck, a lot of men wouldn't want nothing to do with you either. And I'm going to say something to these men, that any man that did not lessen his financial support, especially of her, after she said, I don't bring peace. Any man who heard her say that on that video and sent the same amount of money as before is a damn fool. Any man that continued to do so after she tried to surprise Auston Holleman with some facts about child custody laws in Brazil and then questions about those is a damn fool. Why? Because see, she tried to do this with Mr. Holleman, not hatefully. No, not at all. But she did not tolerate it when a man surprised her with a tough question, even if she could have had a good answer for it. See, somebody left a comment underneath someone left a comment, I think it was underneath the YouTube video, not the Facebook one, and said she actually slept with Kevin Samuels. And when she wanted to become more, he friend zoned her and she wasn't having it. And that the argument they had about this was actually public in a restaurant, witnessed. I don't know if that's true or not. It's a comment someone left on YouTube. It could be true. It could be false. I'm willing to accept both possibilities. Now, let's say that the rumor was the opposite, that they knocked boots and Kevin got punani whipped and wanted to wife her up. And she was like, but you old and you've had trouble with women before. It was a one-time thing and I ain't, somebody else is more my speed. And they had an argument about this in public. It would have gone viral. It wouldn't have been something that somebody had to just leave a comment about. Because in anything that makes a black man look bad at the expense of a black woman, makes a black man look bad to the credit of a black woman, is going to go viral in America, in Canada, in the UK, in Jamaica, in Trinidad, in Barbados, in the Bahamas, in Belize, and in Guyana. And according to one of my brethren subscribers, Virgil, in Suriname as well. Oh man, we're dealing with some stuff here. But see, the way she responded was like something triggered her. And now that gives credibility to this. If she had not responded that way, it wouldn't have even prompted the commentator to write that comment underneath the video that Auston Holleman posted to YouTube. I'm not talking about the one that It's That Bad himself posted in Facebook. That's in a closed group. A lot of you will never see it. Oh, well, I mean, you'll never see the post. You saw the video. And understand this, Miss King, I'm going to tell you this too. Just in case you're one of those chameleons that doesn't really mean to be, but you're still struggling with something, I'm going to tell you what your enemy is. One, it's the training. Very deeply held assumptions that you probably never articulated in words, even mentally within your own mind, but you believe them to be the case. That men start off with a negative value, intrinsically. Ideas like this. That looks give you license to tell more truths. You may have, in fact, these ideas and these opinions, but that kind of training is your enemy. And the other enemy is the foreign woman that is younger than you, looks as good as you do, and behaves better, actually will bring peace to a man, and he doesn't have to be rich to get it. See, Auston Holleman started the phrase, "It's that bad," in this context, in which that gentleman took the screen name, or from which he took the screen name. It's that bad. Therefore, let's take a look at what goes on. Okay, Brazil does have a red pill community. Brazilian men do complain about the games Brazilian women play. Guess what? If they were dealing with American women, it would be worse. It's that bad in America. It's that bad in Canada. It's that bad in these other first world nations. Right? And even some that aren't first world, they're just Anglophone Caribbean nations or Anglophone nations of the Americas. Do you see where I'm going with this? Former British colonies in the Americas. It's that bad there. If these men in Brazil went to Guyana, those Guyanese women would treat them worse. If these men red pill in Brazil, and probably for a good reason, went into Chile and Argentina, they'd probably be treated worse. Then again, maybe not. They went to Colombia, I don't think they would be. If they went to Belize, they certainly would be. These men still these men don't want to trade in the Brasileira for the Yankee or the Canadian or the Britisher. That's not all. Let me tell you something else that goes on. See, these women, when they get with you, they try to find your name. They have a Facebook group, at least one, just for Brazilian women. And what is it that they do? They go and the men who they have fun with or relationships with, generally the ones they have some kind of relationship with, these are the men they go and look up on Facebook. And they try to see who these men's friends are because they're looking to find out if these men have any other lady friends. They don't go and make a friend's request necessarily, but they go and they look to see if you got other lady friends with Portuguese names. That's what they do. And if they find out that you do, they find evidence that you're there just playing around, they're going to take your profile and your information and share it in these groups so that other brasileiras will leave you alone or they will take you for everything you're worth. One of the two. Now, if you state what it's going to be from the very beginning, and it ain't going to be nothing serious, they usually don't do this to you. So even what they're trying to do to limit your ability to just run through brasileiras unfettered and unhindered, which I don't want you gentlemen to do anyway. They still do better and with more class than what the Yankees do. It's still that bad in the Anglophone West and the West in general. How do we know? Because, see, we know that these ladies in the States, well, before Facebook, they were doing the same thing. Before social media, they were doing the same thing. They were maintaining lists of men to boycott so well that eventually they could just start looking at men and saying, he's definitely going to go on that list. So by the time social media came about, these women were well versed in just looking at you and figuring out where you stood with other women and leaving you there. You could go on one date that a lady did not enjoy in the States, and the next day you were on a list in Afghanistan where they don't even date. That's what it was. This is in the 80s. It was that bad. We knew that because they always shared notes. It got to the point they just started looking at a guy knowing I'm not going to enjoy the date with him, but I get some free food. That's who this guy is. I can tell by looking at his face. This is before the internet, let alone social media. And so no matter how you can bring up things that are going on in these other nations, like in Brazil and Colombia, and things could be bad in certain areas and in certain regards. I'm sure they are. You can still look at the States and say it's worse. And that's why Mr. Holleman said, get your passports. It's that bad. It really is. I knew that. And the reason I knew is because, as I stated, I've been married twice outside. Outside of the West, I've been married twice. I'm jobless as some other cuss word right now. I'm not completely broke yet. Thank Allah. I thank Allah for that. And hopefully I never get to that point. But I'm jobless as some other cuss word. And I just had to tell my wife yesterday that the last gig for which I was waiting, I was declined for without even the interview. Some funny business going on. We suspected my company is actually telling these clients that I, Black Mind, am declining to work with them, which is not the case. We suspect that's what's going on based on some things. My wife has not jumped and fussed at me. She said to me, keep your head up. We're going to give it a shot. We're going to thank Allah for what we do have right now. We're going to thank him for how bad it's not, for what he's protected us from. We won't quit. And as a matter of fact, when this project that I'm working on for the company's done, and that client is finished with the company, I'm done with the company too. And we're going to bounce somewhere else. And she's already come up with a plan as to where we will go and what will start up. But there's some time before we can get there. That's what I'm facing with her. You think I got that kind of support when I was unemployed in the States? I mean, I'm going to tell you now, the effery didn't begin right off the bat the first day, but boy, that countdown didn't last long. Early 2000s, you know how it was in the job market. Every job was getting laid. If you were working a job that you didn't hate, you were going to get laid off soon. That's how bad the job market was early 2000s for those of you who remember. My wife knew this at that time, and she was still sitting up. As soon as I would be told, okay, nobody come back to work next week, the job's finished. As soon as I'd be told that and I'd tell her, she would say, what did you do? You got fired again. No, it was a layoff. They told us to everybody. Because the economy's bad. Well, how come it's always happening to you? Because it's happening to everybody that shows up. I told you I shouldn't have taken this job. I took it because there was none other. But this is what's going to happen. And I'm going to take another one. Because you're going to say, well, just take any job. And when I do, they're going to do the same thing. These are the differences. So I know from my own experience that it's that bad. Mr. Holleman's right. I don't tell you to go fornicate, but I tell you that you definitely don't need to be approaching the wicked witches of the West, because the worse the economy gets, the more they start demanding from you. The only reason that they're being nicer now is to demand for it from you. Soft girl era, I shouldn't have to deal with this. No, the economy sucks. Be worried. Everybody's got to deal with this. Don't tell me the air conditioner's broke. I know it's broken. I feel the heat too. We just can't afford to fix it. Not right now. Thank God the heat's working so that when the winter comes, we won't be too bad. We won't be too bad off. Would you rather sweat or freeze to death? Make up your mind. Because it's going to be one or the other. See, we have to tell them things like this because the economy's bad. This happens to anybody. The things you cannot afford, gentlemen, right now are not some failure of yours. And the things you could not have afforded a few years ago when we weren't doing as well as we are doing now and thought we were doing worse than what we really were, still ain't your fault. Because, yeah, the job market still discriminates. Heterosexual, black males catch it worse. And if you add Muslim to that, you really at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to hiring. First fired, last hired. And those of you that are black, male, and Muslim, you're already hetero if you're the other three. You know what I'm talking about. You faced that before. Some of you I know personally, and you know me personally, and we talked about this before I became black mind, before I even left the U.S. And some of you know somebody that went not only married to a woman not from the States, but left the States to live with her. And these guys don't regret it to this day. So I know from experience, you get a better deal in most cases. See, in the States, my friends could not hook me up with someone that was attractive and had a good attitude. Just those two. Forget all the other stuff. Attractive, had a good attitude. Them two didn't go together. They couldn't fix me up unless she didn't know she was attractive. Now that did happen. Usually the women I wound up in relationships with and later married didn't think they were as nice to look at as they are. Something had them insecure to a level they didn't need to be. That's the truth of the matter. That's what the hell it took. And unfortunately, I found out when I left the U.S. that this was actually the thing that sisters in general had taught me to believe. That I was less to look at than what I really was on average. Now, I'm not saying different women didn't have different opinions, but I'm saying on average, they wanted me to think I was less to look at to them than what I actually was. So when I got out the States, I realized what was going on. Lived out of it. That's when I found out. A few months after living in Saudi, especially when the weather started to warm up and I was walking around more often and finding that I was being looked at by Saudi women from behind the veils. I started getting nervous, actually, because I didn't want somebody to come to me and be like, say, bro, why is she staring at you? So in all honesty, I wasn't surprised when I saw that Auston Holleman was getting the bad treatment he had gotten. 6'2". That's exactly what sisters say they want a man to look like. And they were giving him the blues. I wasn't shocked at that point by the time he came out because they had done it to me. And as a matter of fact, it took years even for my mother to realize that they were doing this and told me, oh, yeah, they're all in on this, son, to make you easier for the regular ones of them to get. And I was like, well, okay, so how come the ones that look equally stunning as they think I look? And she said, no, they're not going to because they're spoiled for choice. So, and she didn't realize that what she was telling me in a nutshell was, it's that bad. That's what my mother was saying in so many words. When I was in my 20s and she finally told me what the game was, that this had been done. I never thought that I was bad to look at. I just actually believed that the sisters who pretended to think I was believed it. And what she was saying is, no, even the ones that act like you ain't nothing to look at don't really believe that. She was the one that had to break that to me. So I know whatever they can say that you're going to face in Brazil, whatever they can say that you're going to face in Medellin, whatever they can say you will face in Sosua, in Cartagena, in Bogota, in San Andres, whatever they're going to say that you will face in Costa Rica, be it San Jose or Limon, whatever they can say that you're going to face in Nicaragua, or anywhere in Mexico. Whatever they can say that you're going to face in these areas, Santo Domingo. Holleman was right. It's far worse stateside. And that's why it is that you got to do exactly like he said. Do what Brazil Yeesh has been saying. You work stateside. You keep your head down. You stack. You don't spin on them broads. You stay quiet. You fly under the radar. You try to be invisible to those women that work with you. And then when your bread is good and you got a way to earn abroad, you fit the guck out. And you never give one of the wicked witches of the West a chance, because you don't give the unknown women in the West a chance. Not because all of them bad, but because the bad ones are the ones you're going to be able to find. And when you are aware of this and you voice this to someone else, that's when the ladies come along and say, well, you ever stop to think that it's maybe something about you? Oh, they had all of us with that, didn't they? Don't lie, gentlemen. Did they not have all of us thinking that's what it was? Because we would say that to each other. What is it about you? It keeps attracting these ain't fit bees. No. They had all formed, like I said, a sexual labor union and decided, okay, ain't none of us gonna be fit. So this way, none of us has to be fit to compete. We're going to all be no better than this low quality right here. And we're going to demand the most in exchange from them. All of you need to be on board. And if you ain't, you a pick me B word, and we might even cut your face with a razor. That's how they were. That's what they did. And that's why it was that all of us, no matter what standards we met, eventually had to realize and understand that we were not going to find these same standards being met. Did this not happen this way? Is this not what you gentlemen had to face? So that being said, Melanie turned around and proved Auston Holleman right. She took the video down in which she interviewed him. We know it's there, but she took it down. This was after she told a man, even I don't bring peace. I think that one's still up. And then, and this is despite the good she's done. Yeah, she has advocated for men. She actually has. Yeah, she's told on a lot of these wicked broads. I'm recording this about her because I have to. And I don't know how much of this is conscious and unconscious on her part, because the training is that damn deep. But what we got to do is, gentlemen, those of you that have been rocking with her and sending her anything, you got to really test her. The ones of you that make it easier for her to advocate for men, you need to test her. Don't support her and don't oppose her. Just, even if you subscribe, fine. But do not send any more cash apps. None. Let her get nothing but that ad money. And see if she will advocate for men in exchange for whatever ad money any other YouTuber would get, and in exchange for whatever encouragement any other YouTuber would get when specifically they make valid points and nothing else. Gentlemen, if you think, well, she looks good, I can't help but send money, if that's how you are, then what you should do is you should listen to her and not look at her. If we would do this, period, from jump, we wouldn't have to worry and debate about who's a chameleon and who's not. Because sometimes people get attacked. And this happened to her too. Before we had any evidence of her being a chameleon, she was attacked. And that was still unfair to her. Let the evidence come out. They'll show it. A chameleon's going to change color. That's how you know the chameleons. And there's another thing that they say. This is actually an African proverb. I don't remember which part it comes from. But it says that when the forest is on fire, the chameleon must abandon the majestic walk of its ancestors. And that's the other thing. When they start having to scramble to make the same money that any male YouTuber would have to scramble to make, especially if you're not showing your face like me, when they got to scramble to make the same thing, they will abandon that majestic walk. And you won't even blame them in that case, because they got to do what they got to do. But when it starts to come down to they're going in different environments, and I don't mean that they're being nice to people. But I mean that they start to change and shift up. You see a change like this, you're dealing with a chameleon. Maybe she knows it, maybe not. That's another story. It takes more time to figure that out. But this, see, we can see in this case. Forget how dare he ask that question. Her public would, it was public, her friendship with Kevin Samuels. That was public. It was equally public she wasn't at the funeral, and she may have had a good reason. What made her not just say, I had a good reason, and here's what it was. Because even if she had a good reason, there's something she's hiding. So if that rumor that somebody left in a comment underneath Auston Holleman's posting of the video on YouTube is not true, there's still something she's hiding. That is true. Even if she had a good reason, she doesn't want to say it because that would lead to something else she wants hidden coming out. And that could also be a reason or thing to keep hidden. But the fact is, she handled it worst way possible. Going off on that guy and then insulting his junk, and she ain't never seen it. She even said later, you can come back, we can have she said a civil discussion. The man never got uncivil with you. You got uncivil with him. Did he come out of left field and shock her? Yeah, but you know what? That comes with the territory for her. She's not wrong because of how she felt. She's wrong because of how she handled it. And if she's going to preach being Christian and Christ and all this, she got to control her emotions just like a man's got to. Same thing with her. Control your emotions. F out of here with that mess. You the one that went off on him because he asked a tough question. And you didn't think it was okay for Auston Holleman, who didn't go off on you when you asked him tough questions about custody laws that weren't a thing of his because he ain't got no babies. I'm looking forward to his next video from outside the U.S. Not because I promote him fornicating, but because, the videos don't even depict that. They don't depict anything dirty. They're clean. If you ain't a fornicator, you can learn from something that he's posting and talking about. If you ain't a fornicator, you can learn why it's better to get your passport and how it's really that bad in the States. You got to go abroad to find out how, gentlemen, you got to go somewhere else to find out how bad of a deal you've been taught to think just came with the territory. And Miss King wants to uphold that idea in your minds. Well, see, she still says to you, gentlemen, well, see, you have to learn this. No. She'll tell you what you have to learn to do. No. When she tells you what the games are, the games justify you doing not a mother cuss word thing for any of them except getting your passport and getting out their way so they can live their best life. That's what that is. And the thing I like about it is that when you go into other parts of the Americas, you can save up with a trade. You can have a trade in the States, save up, and you can afford to go to some other parts of the Americas. So you're actually upholding the infrastructure of the U.S., and then you get to bounce. Imagine if more and more of you did that. Woo! I've talked long enough. Thank you all for listening. As always, black heart, black mind, black out, assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual, non-select, male power, just cause Miss King don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.